Let's take a look then at the Common Core State Standards and the curriculum standards documents that guide our work. What we have is basically 4 different documents. One is the California ELD and SLD standards. And one of the things that's happening now is that the California ELD standards are getting a lot more attention because a lot of what we're seeing is that they haven't been fully implemented in ways that are really being beneficial for our English learners. And the SLD standards are a translation but also an augmentation of the ELD standards because they focus on the important concepts that we would be teaching in vocabulary and oral language development in Spanish. And then, of course, the ELA, ELD frameworks. The ELA framework is the basis for the Common Core en Español because it takes the Spanish, the English language arts standards and translates or augments them, and we'll be seeing that in detail in order for us to decide what transfers between the 2 languages. So it, in effect, is a full curriculum for Spanish literacy instruction, Spanish language arts, and also a full guide to maximizing transfer. So let's look at those key elements of research that support the Common Core State Standards. Research that impacts our program design and instruction, and looking very carefully at the context for learning language in the home and in school. And then we look at, it looks at how research informs educators about how oral and written language work to convey meaning. Because remember, language without meaning isn't language. And so looking at the history of, the descriptions of language that we have from psycholinguistics and sociolinguistics is important. And then we also look at how second language acquisition and second language proficiency are important elements in literacy and biliteracy learning for different student populations. And then how research validates the effectiveness of different theoretical models for dual language and English medium programs in instruction, looking at the whole spectrum from K to 12. So, for example, here we have from CABE's website the variety of different programs. Dual immersion, dual language immersion 50-50, dual language immersion 90-10. And each of these programs is theoretically research-based to emphasize what aspects are necessary, what elements are necessary to be in each program in order for the program to be effective and to achieve its outcomes. And each of these have a different focus in terms of outcomes and different trajectories for learning that are also researched to make sure that each step along the way is being, the achievement results are being achieved. So, for example, in terms of looking at multilingual learners, this from the Pew Research Center shows us that the Latino population overall has a different profile in that 38% of the Latinos are Spanish dominant, 36% are balanced bilinguals, and 25% are English dominant. And this also has to do with generation. How long, if they're first generation immigrants, second generation, or third generation, because what we see is that the second generation usually is bilingual, but by the third generation, oftentimes they'll be monolingual English, or at least English dominant, and not have the Spanish language proficiency developed. And the way this happens also is shown in the neurological research. And I think this is a very interesting graphic because each of these brains have tracked the pathways that are formed according to the language learning experiences of the bilingual learner. Age of second language acquisition, the amount of second language exposure, and second language proficiency all show different pathways in terms of relating the two languages to each other and also in literacy learning. And the important conclusion that this draws is that if we only consider bilingual learners as being homogeneous, all alike, we're going to be missing out on a lot of the knowledge that research gives us about how their individual differences and their individual bilingual experiences in the home and in school are influencing their learning.